by now we all have had different experiences with creating communities. And I mean, it comes with memory about what kind of realm it is here. And then you quickly realize that not many places that are proposed around us in our direct surroundings or even online are safe communities, or the communities we would really like to join or build with, right? So it's been my understanding that it is challenging to be building community here in this realm due to the extreme degree of engineering in our lives and in the lives of other spirited beings as well. There is a lot, especially of relationship engineering, and then it's gonna handle the way we spend our time. It's gonna derail us, and it's also gonna derail others. So I think the more you regain your memory and you remember what kind of realm it is, if you look around, I mean, you also see it more and more in the lives of other spirited beings that you know. And maybe sometimes when you relate with them, you know, sometimes it can comes with their the engineering they are entangled with, like, you know, like their, sometimes it can be their partners, their family, different things like that, right? So that sometimes separate us as well and create distance, that we see people less and less and things like that. So each of the spirited beings here really has their own bubble of engineering. And also online, you know, each of us of our online life is very unique because we're connected to many different kinds of beings and energies, and none of us has the same, right? It's going to be different for you than it is for me, and it's changing also as it goes, right? So, you know, every day you might declutter a bit, like, you know, leave a person behind or let it go because, you know, they reveal their true color or things like that. So it's changing every day quickly. Normally you want to keep, you know, you want to keep your space clean and maybe free of distraction. I think online, you know, I think we can go faster and faster if we trust that we pick the frequency signatures in everything's and every beings. And I mean, sometimes if it starts, like if they reveal their true color, or if they control you, or, you know, if they leave a comment on social media which create an effect that is not really encouraging, I quickly learned to navigate that faster as well, and to trust in myself more, and to trust in reading frequency signature also in my ability to do so, right? And you know, the symbolism also help, and looking, you know, what you can see in the eyes, and also what you can feel in substance in the message that people communicate with, you know, whether on site or online. Like, is there any substance? Sometimes there is no substance. Their timing as well, sometimes it can be very teleguided, right? So the teleguided aspect, for example, if you're dealing with a lot already, the matrix likes to overwhelm you in the hope sometimes you will crash. So sometimes it attacks, is going to try to overwhelm you in series with, you know, 5 different things coming in at the same time, and then seeing who is teleguided to contact you and to add to the pressure that you're already going through at that moment. It's generally revealing a handling role. Now you have some beings who can be triggering once in a while. We all are to each other to an extent, because of our programming or cognitive dissonance, or sometimes our freedom as well. And triggering does not mean that always that, you know, a mountain has to be put between people, but if it's repetitive, I mean, repetitive, and it really depends also, you know, what kind of, do you know what kind of being you're dealing with, the core of the being? I think that is the most important, the core of the being, who they are choosing to walk in this life. The ones that are truly aligned, and by that I mean the one that understand mind control, right? The one who are aware of the degree of handling in their life, the one who have some memory of who they are, right? Because beings who have very, very little memory, you also cannot go so very deep with them, because they pretty naive about what kind of realm it is here, and they generally don't walk in their power either. And it's my understanding that the matrix really is designed to prevent as much as possible for us to spend time together, because it encourages memory, and it's also discouraged to live close to each other, right? That's why the map is so big, and sometimes some of us live pretty far away on the map, right? So it's not like we can meet up for tea so easily. Luckily, with our abilities, we can connect with our psychic gift, especially. It's almost as if we were meeting in person, though I noticed that maybe it's also the experience of several days together can trigger and activate memory for us, and it can stay present. It's like the memory wiping, try to wipe it as quickly as possible, but as long as the activation is there, it's good to already set ourselves in actions as well. I mean, generally, if you have any type of activation, it's great to act on it as quick as possible. I mean, to do something with it, to, if you feel like you have the energy to do these things that, maybe take so little time, but take us a long time before we're able to do them, then when we have this activation, that's a good moment where we can actually go into action. I've been part of different force communities, and you cannot really, you're gonna plateau at some point, in a crowd that is kept under mind control. You're gonna start to feel the boxing and the walls, and a lot of beings are finding a sort of relief and comfort in false communities. They are lying to themselves, they are under mind control, they don't realize it's a handler, it's a guru, and it has a comforting aspect where it's not the cold sharp truth. Sometimes I've been part of different false communities, one of them I mean, before that as well, but I was learning psychology, and it was like a cult type of environment setting, with a facilitator who wasn't real, who wasn't connected to spirit, and who was using, psychology, new age, self-development ideas to basically distract us. And I mean, us, they were different participants, and some of them were real, and probably that's a place where I found a little bit of a higher percentage of real people, some of who I am still in touch with, and some of them also have been revealed they were handlers around. And I've been in different online forums and communities, and many virtual spaces also are meant to handle our time, our energy, and our minds. It's meant to derail, because we would be doing different things. Also, we are meant to believe that our handlers are something else, and at some point we break our programming and we put two and two together, and there is a timing for that, and then we need to process it and to make new choice with the information that we now have. So I traveled a lot. I left for Southeast Asia several times. I also had the desire growing to build something. And also with my online project, I started to organize calls. I've been part of the festival scene as well. There was a lot of sex kitten programming in one of the hive mind I was part of that I left. The hive mind that I left, now if I look back where they are 10 years later, they are still so well involved with the sex kitten programming has grown bigger and bigger in their life. This is big is more overt for some members. Some of them are, yeah, it's just express stronger. I've been looking at what where are they in their life now, and what are they doing. But I really felt that I had to cut ties in and protect myself for several years and not to be in touch with them. And even remotely, it can still affect and trigger programming just from social media, just from Instagram. Beta sexual programming can be triggered just from looking at an Instagram feed. So that's pretty powerful. There was other communities, if you've been part of the plant medicine scene, it's also based on community, singing, being in a circle, opening up and things like that. But also very corrupted and infiltrated. There was I did find it weird how it was set at some moment, just for one of the guide, and the way they were interacting with the participants and what was being said and how it was presented. It just felt not right at the moment. And then it took, now I look back, it's even clearer, right? But once you're immersed in the experience, you're experiencing a lot, and it's a lot with the interface. So sometimes it gets clearer and clearer when we're extracted also. And with the years, if you look back to your past, I mean, things are clearer, and the traps are more sophisticated each time, because our consciousness is growing. So the old traps not gonna work anymore. But they have always version, and also other spirited beings can be really powerful with their dark sides, with their psychic abilities, with their handling abilities as well. So all the reels are also have programming that are setting them up to be handlers for others. And if we're not working on our shadow, that's what most are end up to be. Now, handling can be just a remark here and there, or it can be much more than that, right? So it's really a lot of influences. That's why it's so complex here. So this was the eco village in Brazil. They had different things going on, why they monetized everything. So money was involved. There was some greed. There was some ego. They were also affiliating with that Brazilian guru, Prem Baba, who has very guru type of frequency to him, handler frequency as well. And as soon as you're setting yourself as a guru, or the satsang type of setting, it is problematic because of the hierarchy and just the frequency signature. And so the course that I took there was not really what I was hoping to find it, but it probably what I was needing to understand, right, from the lessons. And even on paper it looks always, they always gonna work with language saying that the values, and it's gonna resonate to a certain extent. They were adopting children, they had vegetarian cuisine, the landscape was really great. Probably the place had a lot of potential. I didn't meet really the creators and things like that, but I met some of the staff, interacted with them. They didn't seem really concerned with the experience. So, it felt like a little bit of spiritual shopping, something like that. And, that's when the hostile forces also are going to be there around, because they're going to be a mix of stimulation. They're always going to be intruders in these communities. And I wasn't feeling like, expanded. Of course, I think it's has more depth to build community with people you love already, and you already have history with them, than with strangers. You find a lot of problems with hive mind, find handlers around, group consensus, the shadow aspect, the unconscious, that also can reveal, and it can reveal also gently. If you, during the gatherings that we organized, I sometimes realize things of my subconscious, but it was gentle, or it was when I was alone, or so it's I pick up different things like that. In this place, you often find spiritual bypassing, or if people need also to go beyond new age false light and new age beliefs. So spiritual bypassing is that heart that people can have sometimes about avoiding dealing with their unresolved and unprocessed wounds, and bypassing the basic shadow and psychological work that need to be done in order to really acknowledge what is really there. There is a lot about the trauma we are carry in us. It's not only the daytime trauma, it's also related to other realms, transfer of consciousness, what's going on at night. We accumulate a lot of trauma with that. That's why that sometimes you can recognize real spirited beings like this. Like, it depends, but some of the spirited being are not early bird. Like, they're not a morning person. They need time and quiet in the morning, because they're never sure what kind of morning it's gonna be, right? So, and also something that most people believe in is, following the thread. And it's not only synchronicities, it's also predictable behaviors and choices. So sometimes when you're pushed, I mean, oftentimes we're pushed into our programming, and we're pushed into reaction, and we don't realize that we are taking predictable decisions. I also visited Findorn. It was very new agey. It's in Scotland. I did not participate as much as in the eco village in Brazil. There was a strong cult mentality. I quickly disengaged. I wanted to volunteer for 2 days, but in the end, I didn't end up working there at all. I learned stories, and I heard that a lot of people are actually paying to be working there. So they work for Finrun and they pay for to do so. So it's clever. And I think it was in 2019. And that's about when I kind of started to stop looking. There is not such place as I sometimes they sell them to be. And with the pandemic, I also rooted more at home. I grieved the possibility of travel if it was necessary. Now we can travel, but just the let it go, that it was good for me. And I also adopted the dogs. So yeah, I also learned with these travels and with understanding mind control better and the engineering in my life, I started to be less open to all the propositions out there that the simulation sent me. And also when I was traveling, right? So I think it's important just I put probably 80% of the proposition in the bin, and that's how you can still have some space in your life, because there is a lot of mind control. Why sometimes people are getting in touch, what are they asking, on what programming are they playing. I had different experience sharing space, right? I had a roommate who was my beta sex kitten handler. So she was there to trigger programming for 2 months and then derailed my life for quite a while. She had an influence and I completely cut contact with her. I had a different partner, but one of them I lived with for 2 years. That's not my ideal version of sharing space either, with someone that can then turn so hostile and hateful. You know how these stories are, you know, how they end sometimes, and with people not being at all in the life of each other. I had other roommates that also, it was part of the engineering. I didn't have a discernment when I chose them, and probably was reactive and predictable in the choice that I made. And they turned out to be handlers as well, and to be used negatively at least. So we find a lot of the programs are always going to push these relationships where either we sacrifice ourselves, where that play on our people pleasing aspects, or that trigger guilt, or you know, that play on your kindness sometimes, but it is also your programming. Quality over quantity, I mean, I always knew, but you know, it's it's so simple, but it's so true. A few trusted members, right? And friendships also who have resisted the years, you know, when you're friends for some years already, you know, you've been through some battles and stuff, so you're building something, right? Especially if you overcome also obstacles together, it can, you know, make your bond stronger. If you see other also how, you know, your friend react, that it feels safe, then you know, it allows sometimes to build a deeper trust. I also like beings who are walking their path with really strong ethics and morals, right? Who are, you know, who are not letting themselves be overruled by their shadows, basically. And therefore, they also are not easily seduced, tempted, corrupted, or compromised as easily as other people who have some narcissistic traits or strong ego, because the ego is a point of access and a point of, you know, how people are fooled by their ego, and that's where from there they start deflecting, and in their head you are the bad guy while they are the one abusing you, and you just setting boundaries with them, but they are, you know, they they self-persuade themselves of these lies, and I don't think you can build really strong things with such beings, because they are accessed to create drama, basically. So people, I mean, beings who understand, who have a quite good understanding about how to deal with their triggers, right? And how to navigate their shadow aspects, it's also important. And that they, you know, that they know how to process them when it happens, that they don't like go into fight, for example, fight mechanism or persecutor, right? You know, when you're under attack, the matrix always try to trigger your persecutor programming for you to become a persecutor yourself. I mean, so I mean, the community is also a place where everyone contributes with their abilities, their unicities, and each of us is so different. I mean, the more I keep on knowing real people, this each real is really so unique and such a multiverse as well. It would have also to be people who have some memory of who they are and where we are here as well, because people who don't understand, you know, the why it's so complex here, and then they just go from one experience to the next, but they don't really learn what it is here, like what kind of realm, the simulation aspect. And they don't, when they're exposed to material, they're not really interested, it's not their role, they're gonna keep in these loops, right? Or they completely unaware of their power and greatness and what they could do with it, and they live like as if they were spiritless, because that's what the simulation is sending them, and that's what the simulation encouraging them, and so they live small, right? They're but you can, when you talk with them, you know about the greatness that is in them, probably more than even them. And it has a bit of sadness and frustration with these beings, and you can only build so far with them. Ideally, this community also would be handler free, at least from major handlers, and keeping these strong handling influences at the door, or cut short whenever we realize what's really going on, right? And I when I had my vision about community, I also, I mean, I always, I I'd like also to do some things for spirited animals, because I think they're having it hard, probably even harder than we, because they're, for example, dogs. I mean, they're so they need humans, right? They handled by humans, they handled by organization who choose where they're gonna go, and you have like even a greater amount of engineering for them, and it's so definitely, I mean, it already has a place with me with rescuing, but I would also like maybe to assist dogs that are not going to be my personal dogs to be made sure that they would be placed in families with at least real people, and not backdrops, right? So at least they can have real love, right? So that would be a vision. Community is complex, I mean, because we are so complex, and there is a lot to the different aspect and to our complexities, and to what can be triggered willingly, non-willingly, consciously, non-consciously. And I feel it will really work with beings where you can have these kinds of dialogue, right, about the meta text of the encounters, which most of the beings, they don't really go there. Some, they don't want to go there. But there are sure a lot of obstacles in how it's designed here, the geographical distance as well, how we are spread apart, and also, yeah, the necessity of, I mean, the reality of needing money to survive, and time being devoted to that, and time being devoted to different things that sometimes keep us apart. And yeah, so it's very interesting to be building it, and I've definitely felt a shift the last few years, also with joining less things that are already set up, right? And you find a lot of entanglement, and just the daydreaming. I mean, just the vision in our minds can bring it faster to manifestation. That's why I think it's important to gather also in this energy of remembering what is true, and what matters. And what matters is when you don't get also that feedback. When you can interact with beings who have a deeper understanding of who you are as a being, right? And that's not, I mean, I think we can share some aspects of ourselves here and there, but also getting confronted sometimes to that feedback that is inverted, or to that encouraging to blend in with different programs going on, like They want to bring you in these distracting programs. And I mean, we can express to some degrees, but something just doesn't feel entirely right there. Sometimes you have a gap between what people tell you they're experiencing with you and what you feel is the real frequency signature as well. So that's one of the aspects that makes it complex also for community and community building. And I mean, even when we're being pushed a little bit by the matrix, I think looking back each time, you can, it just force you to give the best of you, maybe sometimes faster than you thought you were able to do it. And so that's a great way to discover also, to reconnect faster to our dormant potential, which, this matrix has a lot of ways to encourage our process to be slowed down. That's why it's always doing with the distraction and, survival programming as well is a way to slow you down, right? With the programming from MK Ultra, and then that's time against money, if working on these beliefs as well. But when you're busy doing that, you're not busy. Basically it's like allowing so little space, and space is what we need to deprogram and to also manifest from true vision, and not what is programmed. And trying different things, and it just helped also showing up, despite the trigger, right? So there is some self-esteem programming, and you have to go over it if you want to go to the next level. And that's by doing the things sometimes that you're scared, or that your programming try to discourage you from doing it. And I feel when you go over it, then the next time it's not you already have deactivated a little bit. For that, we will always have to take in consideration what realm we're in, and how it can affect our self-esteem, and how we are. It's a process, and we know, and we've put the work until here. And I feel stronger to dismiss also some of the distorted mirror image that this matrix can send, but it doesn't mean it's not difficult at some moment, or when you have collapsing, of what you are working on or we're working on. It can feel a little bit discouraging, because you're like, but actually collapsings are also a good sign that you're actually breaking free, though it's not designed to feel good, right? It feels like a collapsing, and you have to grieve. And the collapsing also is an encouragement to refocus on what we have that is true, and to make space for what will come, right? When we have made a bit of room for that. And I've noticed how these collapsings are designed to feel quite difficult, a bit depressing. Sometimes we can feel also like it's hard to make it through alone, right? And I think to some extent we needed to do it alone, and that's when you can do it alone that you can actually also do it with others. That's because we're able to do it alone, that then later the next step is community. It's not community first and then learning to do it alone. It's the other way around. But at least that's how I'm reading it. And sometimes it feels tempting, to have this community, but there are certain things that are way easier to start, within the context of a community, like taking care of the material thing in a community. Or I mean, it's always easier to get started when you're two-person, but then who is this other person in your geographical reality? It's, the programs can send different things, or people who are available can have different control energies also. When you keep connected to the truth, then, you don't have this self-doubt that can be really affecting also, the image you have of yourself. The programs are sending different things that, and it triggers you differently, right? Some triggers can be really deep, right? And some you can kind of dismiss if you know where they are coming from more easily, like, if you're walking in the truth and somebody has like as an image of you that is not the truth, right? It's their projection. It's what they heard, or it's how they see you, but it's not the truth. Then I feel it helps to know it's not true, right? Yeah, I think there are so very few beings with whom we can really, really go deep, each of us in our, because it's so complex, and the complexity of the beings and the different levels that people are in. Um, it's difficult to go very deep with people who are very asleep to many, many, many layers. And it depends, it depends the essence and the substance of the being. But even then, you're going to deal with a lot of different things when you interact with them. So the design is it's complex. It's designed to separate, so that create loneliness and separation, and for us not to even want to talk about it or have the space. Or I mean, a lot is being done so you don't manifest from your visioning, because that's where it starts. You're from a vision, and then you manifest it to materiality, but it needs the vision first. But at least you need space for the vision, and that's why gathering in person sometimes can activate this vision, and it's active for a few days, maybe 10 days, and then it gets, after 10 days, most of it can be wiped as well. So might as well tackle it when do something, or while it's active, or have tools to reactivate. That's why gathering sometimes with each other also is important, I think, and just to reconnect to that frequency. You can command the energy to really show you. That's when you really want to know the bottom truth. This energy, if you want, you can ask for everything that is ready to release to be revealed in plain sight and awareness in your reality. At least whatever is ready now. In spirit, we can also ask to spirit to show us what's in the way for us to create a vision closer to maybe a vision that comes with more comfort, that is closer to some of our memories about what is possible to build, and to remember also why is it important I think we can learn when there is a bit of truth, and sometimes there is also lies, and that's when it's important to know which is which, because that's how it's molding your ideas and also has an impact on your decision. Right, and sometimes maybe you have to see if it's asking you to be someone else than you are.